For more Liquid Lunch, head over to YouTube, do a search for Liquid Lunch TV, and hit that subscribe button.
Hey, welcome back. Just a quarter past the top of the hour, high noon Eastern here in New York. Coming to you live as we do every day, Monday to Friday, noon to 1 Eastern from the Question Tequila Studios. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. And now, when we talk about, in the opening segment, about intolerance and poor behavior, even by our own women's U.S. soccer team and unsportsmanlike behavior, we want to talk to people who are the victims of this intolerance sometimes. And joining us today, we have Andy Ngo. And Andy's an independent journalist. He's an editor at Quillette. And he covers these Antifa protests where these people go out and protest against they protest against anything that is Trump, really. And Andy, trying to be an independent journalist and give the other perspective on what's happening out there, goes out and covers them peacefully. And he most recently was attacked severely and brutally by people who are masked. He got his face smashed in. He had a hemorrhage on his brain afterwards. They threw milkshakes on him, which were supposedly crafted up with quick-drying cement in them. So this is what the left is doing. And Andy, thanks for joining us for some time today on Liquid Lunch. How are you?
Thanks for having me on.
Andy, most of us have seen the terrible tragedy that was foisted upon you, but give us your side of the story, because the left doesn't even talk about this stuff. We do. We want to hear what happened from your mouth.
Sure. There's been an effort to sort of paint me as some type of fringe blogger, but I'll just name off my work history. I've contributed to the Wall Street Journal, the National Review, The Spectator. My video work has been sourced to the Washington Post and to Reuters. I also serve on the editorial team for Quillette magazine, as you mentioned earlier. So living and working in Portland, there are a lot of radical demonstrations here. That's one of the topics that I work on. And on the 29th of June, I came there to record the event, to live stream. I had a GoPro that I was excited to use. Antifa have been escalating some of the targeted harassment of me for some months now. I was sprayed with a bear mace on May Day, the 1st of May. Right. So I came in with some anxiety and fear, but I never expected that they would launch a mob attack on me that would land me in the hospital with a brain hemorrhage. This was completely an unprovoked attack, and we were in the middle of downtown, steps away from the Justice Center, which houses the sheriff's office as well as the Central Police Precinct. So actually, while the people were beating me on my head and my face, I could still actually see the building where the sheriff's office is. Of course, no police were there. Over and over, Portland has had instances of citizens getting beaten up on the streets by masked thugs who don't get held, who don't face any consequences for their actions.
Andy, if I may, so did you get the sense that as soon as you arrived on the scene to cover this protest, that these Antifa protesters knew who you were, or did they come to know who you were a little bit later on as you were interacting with them or recording events?
They all knew who I was. So as soon as I got to the park where they had first congregated, they started following me as a group and were trying to obstruct my path of the public demonstration. They were trying to block me from recording. I didn't respond to any of the stuff they were saying, but they were saying my names. And Rose City Antifa had put out disinformation about me in the weeks leading up to the demonstration, calling me an Islamophobic journalists.
But you weren't taunting them or throwing anything at them or doing anything that might precipitate a negative reaction, were you?
Of course not.
No. Now, we see this in all sorts of protests, Andy. Right-wingers beat up left-wing hecklers or left-wing journalists, and a lot of times they're arrested. As it stands now, how many folks have been arrested for your assault?
As far as I know, zero.
Zero.
Wow. Andy, hey, joining us today, we have patriotic artist and activist Scott Lebedo, who held a peaceful protest in front of the Nike store on the 4th of July, painting the Betsy Ross flag. And Scott, you have been the subject of attacks from all kinds of people, too, for peacefully demonstrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's the, with my Trump, I'm an avid Trump supporter, and I do a lot of artwork for, the Trump campaign on my own. And, I've been, my truck, you see my red, white, and blue truck, how many times rocks have been thrown at it, bottles smashed at it. And it's just really ironic how the left, and we all have friends on the left, but, it's the side of tolerance and peace. That's what they preach all the time. And to see this intolerance from when the president, I mean, we experienced it at the
inauguration.
At the inauguration,
we got attacked,
rocks and bottles.
They were throwing batteries at us.
They claim to be the tolerant, peaceful side of society, and here they are beating the heck out of this poor guy who's just doing his job. Me, I'm a little more provocative in your face, peacefully, but. This poor guy,
Andy,
that's what...
Andy, there's all kinds of stuff going on with deplatforming, and people can't get on social media if they take a stance that is deemed to be too pro-Trump. Are you suffering any pushback in the social media as well?
No, I've never been censured for my work or my views because I conduct myself very professionally. I'm not a provocateur.
So do you think that this incident will deter you from continuing to independently cover this stuff? Because we need you out there.
It will deter me in the sense that I will not be foolish enough to believe that the rule of law is enforced in Portland. It's still surreal when I recall the beating and the attack, just because it happened right in the heart of downtown, and police were nowhere to be found. And Antifa had been projecting their plans for violence for weeks ahead of time. So it wasn't even like the police didn't have an opportunity to prepare. But moving forward, unfortunately, I'm living with a certain amount of anxiety. I'm continuing to receive threats sent to me about people threatening to do again what they did to me before if they see me outside. So I hope that Portland police have been taking my report seriously. I hope they're taking this investigation seriously, but I don't know. There's been no arrests.
Did you recover any footage from any of your cameras that could help the police identify the people that assaulted you, allegedly?
I wasn't live streaming on my phone when the attack happened. I was primarily relying on my GoPro, which I was using for the first time, but that was robbed during the beating.
So, Andy, it's unbelievable to me that somebody could be assaulted in such a manner, so much so to the extent that you had a brain hemorrhage in America just for covering an event. It's even more unbelievable to me that there have been no arrests. I find it completely unfathomable that you've been the continued recipient of death threats since then. I'm just curious, let me ask you to speculate here, Andy. Do you think the Portland Police Department has any sort of an agenda in not wanting to find the people responsible for this assault or these death threats?
I don't know if it's fair for me to speculate in terms of that particular line of thinking. However, I will say that there are a certain number of variables that has caused the storm that we're seeing in Portland. And to remind your viewers and listeners, I wasn't the only one who was beaten that day. There were other people who were sent to the hospital. So
Andy,
one of the main issues.
Thank you very much. I hope you'll come back soon. Best of luck with your
Andy,
injuries.
anything you're doing, you want to promote, you want to let us know so we can put some pressure on the local PD to make sure you're safe. Please keep us posted. Two great patriots who go out there in spite of opposition from the intolerant left.
Stand your ground, Andy. Stand your ground.
Andy Nago.
Don't give in.
Scott Lebedo, who's a great friend of mine, great friend of the show, and great American patriot. Scotty, keep up the good work. Andy, you do the same. You stay right there. Liquid Lunch will be back right after this.